Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome to the first session for public sector accounting. Okay, I would like to welcome all of you for this new semester. And as decided by the university that we're going to start the lecture or the learning sessions through remote learning. So I hope that everyone be ready for that because it's quite challenging without face-to-face sessions or lecture, but in any case, we have to adapt this and get ourselves ready for this. So I already shared with you the course outline as well as the guidelines for assignments for this semester. Okay, please read them, go through, and we have to decide few things, including the midterm dates. But I think we'll decide on inshallah in the second class. So for today, I have a recorded lecture for the first session just to get yourself ready, and it's quite straightforward for us, and I think for everybody to be in class. So that's why I prepared this recorded lecture. And inshallah, for all other classes, okay, the main will be the recorded lecture will be available because I do understand that some of our students may face some challenges to follow the ERTL or the remote learning, synchronized remote learning. All right. Okay, to start with, for today, the lecture is on Introduction to Public Sector Accounting. Right. In this lecture, we'll cover okay, what is public sector, and then attributes of public sector, objective of public sector, functions of public sector, and I will touch on public sector reform as well. Okay, so I think it's essential for you to be able to appreciate the accounting practices for public sector organizations. Definitely, you need to understand the nature of the organizations because there are so many differences. There are so many similarities at the same time differences that make the understanding of these organizations, their attributes, make them important for you to be able to appreciate and to understand how the accounting practices works in public sector. Right. Okay. What is public sector? So there are a few photos here that you can look at. I think it's quite obvious, and it's quite common that we understand that what public sector is, or basically the services provided by our government. Our discussion is not only for Malaysian; it's a general discussion. If you are international students, definitely our discussion can be applied to your country. Okay, either developed or developing countries. Right. So if you look at the photo on the top left, so everybody can guess that is a healthcare services. Okay, in the hospital ward. Right. Okay, these are one of the major services by the government. Okay, in the middle is a Mardek building. Okay, so Mardek is basically dealing with economic or business development for SMEs. Okay, basically the role of government in helping to develop the SMEs because SMEs now becoming a major contributor for employment. On the top right, right. So I think you can guess it's a police force, right? How important they are in providing security and stability in the community. Okay, from crime and generally, right? So now, more importantly, during the COVID time, their role. And the photo at the bottom is basically public transportations, okay, from VRL, buses, and taxis. Right, so you can decide, okay, this basically there are services that is needed by the public but cannot be offered by the private sector, then definitely public sector or government have to provide them. Okay, so basically public services is a result of market failure. Right, type of organizations. So you can see from this structure, okay, there are two types. One is from private sector and public. So our focus is on the public sector organizations, okay, on the right side, right? Even in the public sector, there are two types of organizations. Okay, we have government-owned business or GLCs and non-profit, right? So our focus for this class is basically the non-profit arm of the public sector. Okay, school, army, hospitals, ministries, agencies are the ministries, right? Because for GLCs, it's already covered in other classes because very similar to private sector organizations or private company, just that the ownership is basically in the hands of government. Of course, there are certain restrictions. They're not as flexible as a private company, but in any case, they follow. If you look at the accounting system, look at because the structure is company. Whereas for government organizations, their structure, okay, is not a company, but some of them are companies, but there are statutory bodies, departments, so we'll discuss that more in the future. What is public sector? The definition, okay, these are several definitions provided. Okay, so the first one, those industries and services in a country that are owned and run by the state. Okay, such as by many countries, the education services and the railway, right? Of course, railway in certain countries, like in the UK, India, okay, in other parts of the world, is very important, including the US and Europe, right? And secondly, a device for regulating human activities so that men and women can live together in a reasonable harmony. Okay, so it's more towards the functions of the government as enforcement as well as a regulatory body. The third one by MACPA, an entity is established and owned by central, state or local government, and any entity established under any act of parliament which requires the presentation of annual financial statement to the parliament. Okay, this definition by MACPA. So MACPA is basically MICPA nowadays. So you can see that the definition of public sector is quite close to what we have in Malaysia, where we have 3 tiers of government: federal government, state and local government. So you can see that public sector organizations are basically, they are there in 3 level of government, particularly under federal and state governments. Okay, and they are established under the Act of Parliament. So one of the platform to establish government organizations is through Parliament, but others are through executive orders by the Prime Minister or the Cabinet Ministers. Okay, so I think from time to time when you look at government organizations, you'll be able to see how it is created or they've been established. Okay, attributes of public sector organizations, right? So you can see complex and diverse, but commonly share the following features, right? No individual share of ownerships. Okay, so government organizations, okay, they don't have shareholders generally. Okay, if it is a non-company, okay, operate within the framework of public authorization and control, right? So particularly in the framework of funding and accountability. Okay, so they have to be accountable to the parliament. Okay, all these entities, okay, through their ministries. Okay, they basically, if there is questions on what they are doing, so basically they have to be accountable to the public through the parliament, and even the funding, how they finance the activities, right? So within the public sector framework. No direct financial interests or benefits to the contributors of resources. So basically these are, if you compare this with the private sector business entities, where if they basically provide services, the consumer, the customers will pay for the services. Whereas for government services, okay, they're not directly paid by the patients or by the customers or by the clients. Okay, because the main part of the operations is basically funded by taxations. Okay, political rather than financial control. Yes, definitely political priorities take over, or are given more important than financial control. Okay, but you'll see later on, but how this work. Okay, between political and financial control. Corporate outlook, okay, this is what happened to Malaysian government agencies. I think this is also happening in other part of the world where the government organizations, hardly you can see any different than the private sector organizations, okay, because of this, in terms of their systems, in terms of quality initiatives, they are very similar to private sector. Objective of government, right? So in this slide, it shows there are 3 main objectives of government: to preserve law and order with minimum interference in social affairs, Okay, so basically to provide law and order, to make sure that people live in harmony and peace, so they can do their affairs peacefully, as well as if they want to conduct involve in business, they can do business properly. Regulatory industry and economy, so very important. So the role of government to regulate the industry and economy. And you can see during the COVID time how important it is for government to stimulate the economic activities. Okay, they have that direct control. Okay, but of course, the idea is the government should leave it to the market to operate, so that there'll be efficiencies. But at the minimum, they should provide the infrastructure, the framework, so that business can prosper. The provision of services and public goods to the society or the people. Okay, these are, as I mentioned earlier, where the public services that cannot be offered by the private sector, there are demands, but they will be provided by the government, including defense, security, law, health, education, transportation, international diplomacy, okay, relationships with other countries. For instance, like defense, definitely defense is in the hands of government, because it's just simply costly for the private sector to provide. Maybe private sector, they can become suppliers, but to provide the defense is basically in the hands of government. Okay, various agencies, government departments, and public enterprises will set up to provide public goods and services. Right. Main functions. Okay, there are three categories of functions of the public sector organizations. Okay, one is coordination of government policies. Okay, generally, government agencies under Prime Minister office or ministry, they are basically playing the role of coordination. Implementation of government policies, so basically the government policies for education, for healthcare, for transportation. So there are agencies that involve directly on implementation of those policies. So generally, it's basically the agencies under the ministries. Enforcement of government policies. So many government agencies, they have two roles. One is implementation. At the same time, they also have enforcement role, just like Ministry of Health. Okay, they have implementation. They provide services. If you look at the COVID, they provide the services. Okay, good healthcare treatment to the patients. At the same time, they also can have that enforcement. But their enforcement is basically working together with the police, right? But in the case of, if you look at the note at the bottom there, implementation I is the most important for effective results of the policies, but public sector organization may overly focus on coordination and enforcement. So these are, you can understand, because implementation is basically providing direct services, okay, like education, okay, like transportation, good infrastructures, okay, whereas enforcement just to make sure that things are in order. Okay, it doesn't relate. Of course, it's important. Both of them, I mean, three of them, they are all necessaries. They are all important to make sure that government can provide good services. Failure of public sector functions, failure of public sector organization functions. Okay, so it can lead to catastrophic disaster. Okay, I just show you the example here. Beirut explosion rocks Lebanon capital city. Just to have a quick look on this.
Is that a bomb? Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
I'm good.
What is that?
I'm here.
There was a massive explosion. I mean, something that really shook this city like I've never seen before. And I've been through wars here in Lebanon, and this is something unheard of.
All the windows, all the stairs, everything went chaos. It was a nightmare. We felt that for the first time.
Okay, so you can see here from these clips that it's basically failure of the CIO functions. Okay, the coordination, the implementation, as well as enforcement. So what happened in Beirut is basically there is a chemical substance which was left idle, but it's very hazardous and explosive. But then because of miscommunication between government agencies, leading to that massive explosion, okay, that killing many people. So you can see how important it is, the functions of government agencies. Right. Okay. So structure of government agencies. So if you look at this, supporting traditional services. So what are traditional services? Including education, defense, law and order, healthcare, okay, transportation. Supporting political priorities, definitely, because any winning political parties they won the election. Definitely, they have manifestos, so they have to honor their promises. Definitely, they will provide the relevant programs and activities to be consistent with their political priorities. Responding to new public demands, okay, there are changes in the public demands, okay, either due to change in technology, okay, just recently if you talk about digital economy, so you can see that how serious government involved in providing the infrastructure for digital economy, okay, including the speed of internet and others, and they will provide. Responding to new communication technology, so definitely uh, because communication technology enables so many, basically make the government providing the services more efficient. Responding to citizen empowerment is very critical, because if you citizen empowerment, basically people that can change, okay, their demand need to be heard, otherwise they can change government. Okay, this citizen empowerment, you can see clearly what happened in the Middle East and in other part of the world as well, in the US as well as in the South America, where the government failed to respond to the citizen demand that can lead to change of government. So very critical, because nowadays, it's very difficult for the government, for the political parties to divide and segregate the communities, because nowadays with the technology, with the communication technology, all this information can be shared quickly. So that's what happened in the Middle East, leading to change of government. Okay, examples of CRE where the government can provide the role of coordination, implementation, and enforcement. Okay, you look at example of public transport policies and problems. Okay, you know that public transport, okay, that need to provide reliable transportation services. Okay, as well as the quality of the road accidents, numbers of road accidents. You can see that multiple agencies involved. Okay, so some are in the process in the providing the services, like the public work department, okay, to make sure that the road quality, okay, even public work department, they have a role of enforcement and coordination as well, right? Another example is crime prevention, okay, in the case of party or illegal immigrants, where multiple agencies, police, ministry, military, custom, immigration, okay, they're involved in to address the problem of illegal immigration, right? So some of it basically, but enforcement is not sufficient, definitely. Okay, so good services how to control the illegal immigrants need to be developed. Okay, now we move to functions of state in Islam. Okay, so I think it's important to introduce to all the students. Okay, with regards to how, if it is in Islam, so what kind of services that need to be provided by the state. Okay, that is prescribed by the Sharia. Okay, the first one, functions specified by Sharia. Okay, like defense, law, and order, right? And secondly, functions derived from Sharia on the basis of ijtihad for the present situation is an example of protection of the environment, dealing with social problems. Okay, social problems is dynamics. They keep on changing from time to time, so there's need of services. Thirdly, functions assigned to the state at any time and place by the people through process of shura or consultation. Okay, so I think in the case of the government, definitely the process of consultation taking place, okay, either at the ministry level, at the agency level, as well as at the government. So this is definitely recognized by in Islamic Sharia. Right, and then now we move on to public sector reforms. Okay, I highlight this because public sector reform is not only in Malaysia, it's a global trend. Okay, and I think the benefit of public sector reforms can be observed from time to time. If you look at Malaysia, in the case of Malaysia, public sector reforms happened since 1970s. Go through 1980s and 90s. So of course, various stages of reforms. But you can see the result nowadays. Okay, because if you look at the public service, the healthcare, and the defense. So Malaysia, when addressing the case of the problem of COVID, Alhamdulillah, we are one of the best country in the world. So why? Because of good public services as well as the level of commitment shown by the general public. So all of them play their role at the end. So we can manage this pandemic much better than other countries. So if you look at these deliberate changes to the structures and process of public sector organizations with the objective of getting them to run better, right? So you can see that it's an ongoing effort. Structural change may include merging or splitting public sector organizations, while process change may include redesigning system, setting quality standards, and focusing on capacity building. Okay, so improvement can be done reorganizing the government organizations. Okay, like ministries, merging or splitting the ministries, and redesigning the system. Okay, quality systems as well as the training for the public servants. Right, so these are just a simple definition, but if you want to delve in this topic, definitely is very huge, and it's still ongoing effort done by international bodies as well as the government of any country. They try to improve their public sector services. Right, so you can see these are factors of public sector reforms. Okay, increasing expectation of the standard of public service by the people, including the size, scope, and deliveries. Globalization, okay, through because of companies are doing business in different countries, they need support. Good government, attractive package and services that with political stability definitely can attract good companies to come and invest in their country. Economic crisis, global and local, okay, so leading to government need to change and improve their services. New management ideas and party political ideas, okay, so because of new techniques in management, so government can adopt them to improve their services. Improve ICT, communication technology, definitely enable government to provide more relevant services as it should be, unlike before. Right, so now it's new public management as a brand of our public sector reforms. So the attributes of NPM, private sector management style being adopted by government, including example of empowerment of line management. So basically make managers be more accountable and they have more flexibility in their decisions. Focus from process accountability to accountability for results. All right. So basically, what they are answerable to. Okay. From process accountability, they basically they were just accountable for the process. Now accountable for results. Okay. We discuss this a bit more in the future topics. I mean, very specific discussion. The separation of business and non-business activities. Okay, where the business type of activities can be outsourced and can be converted into business and they can run by its own, whereas the core services, core public services like education, okay, like healthcare, okay, transportations, these are defense and securities, okay, this basically in the hands of government agencies. Emphasize on improved governance, okay, with, for instance, improved financial reporting. Okay, we'll discuss this further. Okay, impact of NPM on accounting. Okay, because with the NPM emphasis on efficiency and result-based accountability, so they really need good accounting system. Okay, including accrual, full cost services. Okay, but that's why some of the ideas is to bring in private sector accountants to government. Okay, of course these are being done in developed countries, but in developing countries they have more limitations, so they have to provide alternative options to address these challenges. That requires a shift in the whole accounting system, okay, to accrual basis accounting, to accrual basis reporting, performance based resources. Okay, we'll discuss this in detail. These NPM basically become the underlying discussions when we talk about public sector accounting. Okay, reform in Malaysia, the factor for reforms, including, I think, very similar to what is happening generally. globalization, economic development, political legitimacy. Okay, for the political parties to remain in power, okay, they have to provide better services, impact of internationalization, and the role of international organizations. Okay, so basically, Malaysian government, they're not working in silo. They work with their counterparts in different parts of the world, particularly from developed countries as well as Commonwealth countries, okay, sharing of experience. Whereas developing countries, they are coming to Malaysia to learn the Malaysian experience, how to improve their public services. Okay, countries like so many countries. I mean, these are happening as we speak. Right, the reform happened, as I mentioned earlier, okay, even can be traced to early 70s until today, okay, where you have program-based budgeting, okay, the establishment of Intan, and then there's privatization, quality program, KPIs, private finance initiative, and now including the adoption of outcome-based budgeting as well as accrual accounting. Right, I think pretty much. So that's the lecture for today. Please listen carefully and try to understand. It's an interesting area of studies. Of course, on the surface, it may appear public sector accounting is a mundane topic, but if you want to learn, because we are talking about massive sector. Okay, 1/3 of GDP is basically expenditure from the government, and how the government agencies and how government even from the top management, from the cabinet minister and the parliament, to be able to plan and execute good activities to make sure that Malaysia prosper and as a country. So it is similar to other countries. So big amount of money being spent. So how to make all this money being spent properly. So these are basically the topic touched by the public sector accounting costs. Okay, so with that, I end this presentation. If you have any questions, you can just post through WhatsApp and through the platform, the Google Classroom. Okay, so if you have any problem, please contact me. Okay, so with that, I end this session. Assalamu alaikum.